Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yoga in My School podcast. My name is Donna Freeman. I welcome you here with open arms and a warm heart to this wonderful episode about finding your voice. My good friend, Betty, and I are going to chat for a little while. Betty Larrea is an inspiring individual. She is an author. She is a kids yogi. She is a mother. She has done so much, and I'm always excited when her posts and news come across my feed. And she reached out to me in the summer saying, I think like this is a topic I'm really passionate about, and I've learned so much about my own voice that I'd like to share some of my experiences with others and hopefully inspire them and do all that kind of stuff. So I know that you are in for a good listen, aka watch, however you want to consume the podcast today. We are glad. And I want to say thank you for the feedback, the comments, the reaching out and suggesting people and topics to talk about, sharing, liking, reviewing, all those kind of things. It means so much, and it really helps our community to feel supported and to continue to grow and help everyone around the world that is interested in everything youth, yoga, and mindfulness. So welcome today, Betty. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. I'm so excited to reconnect with you. It's been a while.
It's been a number of years, yeah, since one of those national kids yoga conferences where we connected, and then I know when you published Lucinda's Magic Yoga Adventure that you sent me a copy of that to review, and I loved it and shared it with many of my yoga teacher trainers in my community. So if you haven't, those listeners and watchers of the podcast, if you haven't checked out Lucinda's Magic Yoga Adventure, I encourage you to do so. It's a great little book, and I love the wand that is involved in the book and all that can be there. And the other place that you can find Betty is with Be Yoga, Be Love. And that's, I think that pretty much sums up Betty. But for those listeners who are not familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be where you are today?
Sure. Well, I started in the kids yoga teaching world back in 2001 in New York City. I was co-founder of a kids yoga business. We did kids yoga and art, mindfulness. We combined a lot of music, art, poetry with yoga and mindfulness to create a holistic enrichment program, which we ran for about 5 years in New York City. So that was really amazing. It was just, I had no idea. I had just discovered yoga myself, and I was more like the artist, poet, writer, and my business partner was like the yogi. And so I kind of learned. I had no certification at the time. I just learned on the job, and I'd always loved working with children. So for me, it was just an opportunity to share my love of the arts and growing love of yoga with young children, and to just watch them blossom as we played yoga together. And yeah, so it's been like that ever since. I mean, I've gone through many different changes, since then, since dissolving the business, going back to corporate America, and then just, coming back to wanting to, again, this topic of finding my voice, trying to find my purpose. What am I here for? And in 2011, I left my corporate job and had no idea really what I was going to be doing. But I just knew in my heart that I had been pursuing these side projects. I had, what the book Lucinda's Magical Yoga Adventure was from a one of those adult education, classes, and it was how to write and publish a children's book. And, I was doing these little things on the side. And I knew that, I wasn't going to stay, working in, a bank for the rest of my life. And so I just, decided to kind of go do my thing, not knowing exactly what that thing was. And then I started just calling some of the local schools in the town where I lived, and there was like some interest, since I've been teaching yoga. Also, I was doing a little teaching yoga here and there on the weekends. So it just felt like, okay, let's see if there's any interest. And then that just sort of grew into Be Yoga, Be Love. And then that grew into me publishing my book, finally taking that manuscript and polishing it off and, finding an illustrator and, just getting that done. And so I think every part of my journey has just kind of led me to that next, that next version of myself, that next part of myself that wants to be expressed. And it's been amazing. And sharing my voice, like on this podcast, on the Kids Yoga podcast, which is how I met my first author mentee. And, it just kind of like it started there. And so I find that whenever I open my mouth, even though I'm terrified because I grew up, I was very shy as a child. I was just, I'm an introvert. So as much as I have a lot to say, and I think that once I warm up, I'm good at just connecting with people and chatting. But sometimes getting to that point of, oh, well, what will they think? Or, like all these fears, and just kind of getting over that and getting over myself and just, just saying, well, I have something to say. I'd like to share it. And, letting myself show up,
Love it. Love it. I think you've touched on so many interesting aspects of finding your voice, and it's going to be a great conversation as we dive in. And I think your journey is very similar to a lot of people, what people want to do. I've heard so many people say, okay, when can I leave my full-time job and focus on kids yoga? Like that's where my heart is. That's what I really want to do. And how do I get to that point? And it takes a lot of faith and all kinds of things to be able to do that. And so let's jump in and talk about some fun things. So first of all, what does it mean to you when you say to find your voice?
Well, I think it's really connected to your higher purpose or your purpose, what you feel you were born to do. And that, it's huge, right? And that's taken many years of me, self-discovery, right? So I've been on a journey, a path of knowing myself and finding what brings me joy, such as teaching yoga to kids. Why does that bring me joy? Because when I was a child, I was, as I said, very shy and quiet. I didn't express myself very much. And I was kind of hiding my, my true self and afraid to, be me, be weird, anything that, for me was like, oh, am I too much? And so it's like hiding this, jewel or this precious thing that you are, but not even knowing who that is. And it takes a while to get to know that, who are you? And then the next step is sharing it. So it is a journey. It's not, it's a messy one sometimes, because you're trying things out. You're seeing what feels good and what, and you get clearer and clearer every time that you share yourself or you create something, whether it be, a lesson plan or a program or whatever it is that you're creating, a piece of art. A lot of what, brings me joy is sharing my passion for words and for storytelling and for poetry, which is why I wrote my book and which is why it's infused in all of my classes, like that love of language, that love of poetry. So yeah, I think finding your voice is, it's a complex, kind of process where you're just going inward and then speaking it out into the world more and more.
And I think for, I'm well out of my 20s and well out of my 30s and even out of my 40s. And I'm still working at finding my voice and expressing it and being authentic. And, because you evolve as well as a human being. And it's really important to recognize that things that you say earlier in your life, that may change. It may, as you grow and as you learn and as you have new experiences, finding your voice, I don't think ever stops.
Mm, exactly. I love that. You totally nailed it. It's so true, because we're always growing, hopefully, right? So at least, that's just sort of, the mindset. And I think a lot of us in this, kids yoga world, that's one of the gifts that we bring to the children and the families that we teach, is that self-discovery and that growth and expansion, so that you can be your fullest expression of yourself, whatever that means to you, whatever that is.
Fantastic. So as you've gone through this process for yourself, what are some of the hurdles that you faced as you've tried to find your voice?
I think I was thinking about this question when you sent it to me. The hardest thing for me as a kids yoga educator, I think, and has been, and in transitioning into being more vocal and public about, my the mentoring, like being a book doula and supporting authors, and guiding people and growing their yoga business, and like working with grown-ups, right, is that with kids I have no problem being myself. So I can be goofy, weird, funny, wild, like you name it. I don't censor myself. I just be with kids, right? So the idea of being that same person with everyone else, and especially like on social media too, is a little frightening, and it's a little intimidating, because you're first, for me, it's been a challenge because I've sort of been in that kids yoga box, right? Like where I've been an educator. This is what people know me as. This is, what people are following, my page, and, getting ideas, getting inspiration. And then for me to share more and more of myself, meaning like my personal life, especially when I became a mother, being vulnerable, talking about how, well, I was the happy, perky, like kids yoga educator, and telling people like, you need to like really, play with your child and listen to your child. And then like becoming a mother and seeing like, it's hard enough trying to like, take care of their physical needs, like time to play, time to connect. It's like you really have to be committed and work that in, and it doesn't come easy. And especially because there's no manual in being a mother, so everything is just kind of like everything's so new. And so for me, sharing that part of my journey to motherhood, first of all, and then the fact that it has been challenging, and that it can be challenging despite how many tools you have under your belt, and how many children you have been able to, I would have directors say, how are you so good with them? You're so patient with them. Like nothing ruffles your feathers. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And pretty much I can say that, yeah, in a classroom, I'm able to let children, be, but it's a different story when it's your own child, right? So that's been one of the things that's like putting myself out there authentically, saying, I struggle too. This isn't, now I know, now I can actually say, I understand, and I can hopefully, allow people to really share that their own experience as well, and not be ashamed that maybe they're struggling too, or that they've tried it all. They've tried the mindfulness, or they've tried this approach or whatnot, and it's not working, so I can honestly say that, not every trick that we teach in those classes will work with your own child. You just have to find that, that connection point and that rhythm. And my daughter Cadence is her own person, and she part of being a parent is accepting how she is, as opposed to how I would like her to be, or I expect her to be, or I thought she would be, or the relationship I thought we would have, and that we'd be playing all day together. It's like, it was like highly unrealistic. And now I'm just really grateful to be able to have, like some of those tools that I have for myself, not only, connecting with myself, but to be able to reach her and to help her move through her emotions and express herself, and do all this stuff that she struggles with as a toddler.
I love that. I love how you're talking about, I had all this theoretical and really good classroom experience, and then there's real life 24/7 with the people that I get to live with. And those are different, so different. And we learn from each of those in really unique ways. I remember once, one of my kids, she was going through a hard time, and I would just say, okay, you just got to breathe, just inhale and exhale. She was working with some anxiety and all this kind of stuff, and she just sat there in her like gray, she was about 13 years old. She's like, oh, I don't want to breathe. I'm just like, okay.
I know.
She was just so tired of her yoga mama telling her to breathe again as she dealt with her anxiety. She's just like, I'm gonna hurt you, mom. That's not what I want to hear. I was like, okay, I will back off. I will not tell you to breathe. And part of me inside is kind of laughing because, here's this child that just, you don't want to breathe. It's kind of an essential skill. But yeah, you're right. It's totally different when you're applying it and you're the mom versus the guest in a school or the teacher or the coach or something like that. And those are very different roles. And, another one of my kids, it took her going to counseling to learn breathing skills to find calm. Like it had to come from a totally different voice than my own. And I'm so glad that we took that opportunity for her to learn those skills. And because I remember asking her after she'd gone through the kind of the counseling, and they said, yeah, I think we're done. And if you ever have any problems, and I said, so what was your number one takeaway from this? She goes, the breathing exercises. And I just went, awesome, great. Okay, I'm so glad that was your takeaway. But like you say, and being vulnerable about that, like sharing those moments where you're like, I don't know what to do next, and I supposedly an expert in this, and am trying to figure it out in my own life. And I always tell people, I'm like, yeah, I teach relaxation, but yeah, relaxation, like in real life. Sure. Practicing that. Practicing. It's a yoga practice.
Yeah, definitely is.
Fun. All right. So what types of tools have you used or questions that you've asked yourself that have helped you to clarify like your message, your values, your voice?
Well, meditation. As I said, going inward, really important to connect with yourself and to ask yourself, or ask for guidance, right? From higher, from whatever higher power you believe in, just allowing that to, just to come into, that place of, deeper knowing. And I love journaling. So, again, a self-dialogue, just I find when I'm writing, I'm kind of like in a trance, and everything, all the answers, they're already inside me, or the questions or anything that needs to, be heard is there. So journaling has been, I've been journaling since I was 18. So that's been obviously a huge tool for self growth and self knowing, and finding that voice and listening to that voice. Right. So another thing is vision. So I've always done like the, just writing journals, but now I keep like a visual journal. So it's kind of like a vision board in a book. And I do vision boards every once in a while, but I find that having the book, so it's just, a big book, and then I glue like all, the images and the words, or either write in it. And then I have it, and then I can refer to it. Sometimes I've been using it to kind of guide my meditation. So I'll open to a page of, it could be from, and I've had this one particular visual journal for about, I want to say 4 years. And a lot of the stuff that's in it has materialized. Like I've actually, it's come to fruition, which is amazing looking back. But, then some stuff hasn't. And sometimes I just want to be inspired, and I open it up, and then I meditate on that because it's something that I created. And to me, it's like, me kind of guiding myself. I also do oracle cards. I mean, I'm really into some of that woo-woo stuff, but, anything that can really help me to go, deeper in myself, because as I said, finding your voice, a lot of it is taking the time to be still and to listen, to listen and not kind of listen to the noise out there. Everybody's telling us, with social media and with, just friends, family, everyone wants to, give their opinion, and that's great. And it just sometimes clouds our own voice.
Yeah, I love that idea of finding some stillness and some quiet, and turning inwards, right? Um, and really, finding that inner connection, that inner spark of creativity, and what do you want, right? It's like, what do you want? And for some people, that's an absolutely loaded question, because, like you say, there's so many outside voices that are vying for our attention and for our energy, and just kind of figuring that out. And it doesn't need to be big and grandiose, but it needs to be heartfelt, and let that guide you. Fantastic. And I love the idea that you go back. I think that's really cool, to have a visual journal, and that you can, go back and see, because some things will have come to fruition. Some things will have drifted off. They
Right.
maybe may not be important anymore, but there may be something like, oh yeah, I've forgotten about that. Yeah. Yeah, that is, hey. So that's really, really clever. I've never heard that before. So thank you very much for that suggestion. It's maybe something that I will consider for sure in the future. But there's, and probably, then once you find, we've been able to find what motivates us, what drives us, what is, where we want to go. We've taken the time and we've gotten really focused and centered, which is great. This is important. Then you have this wonderful thing about, what if other people don't like me? Like the real me? So how have you been able to face that fear of what other people will think, and potential judgments?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, that's probably been my biggest struggle, because lately I've been having to kind of veer off in, like sharing more, not only of, my personal life as a mother, but also just more of me as a woman, as a person, like I'm not just this, playful teacher. I'm this embodied woman. And, and I'm a poet, and, there's sensuality there. There's been fear around sharing that, that other side, and we're obviously, all of us have all these facets, these beautiful parts of us. And just having the courage to do that, has just been trusting myself, trusting my journey. Right now, I'm in the process of writing my memoir, or my first memoir. And it's been an amazing experience just to look back again on my writing, to integrate all that I've learned throughout my whole journey, and to start to share that, and share from a place of, just simply sharing myself, and hopefully inspiring other people to also share themselves, to not stay in whatever box. I think sometimes when, on social media, we have this idea that we have to be focused on this, this is who we are, and, with all the hashtags and all that stuff. But it's like we're a whole person. And if we're not sharing that, then it's a huge disservice, not only to ourselves, but to other people who may also be craving that, or desiring to reveal themselves in another way, or to maybe take another angle for their business, or to go in another direction. And I've actually noticed, this kids yoga community here on Instagram, particularly, that mostly a lot of us who have connected through Jessica from the kids yoga podcast, a lot of these women that we've sort of connected, here on Instagram, they are, also starting to, take on other projects, like the bigger vision, the bigger purpose. So, and I think what's amazing, I was thinking about this as I was driving home today, that it starts with our passion for teaching kids, right? Because, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day, it's something that we experienced as a child, or something that we wish children don't have to go through. So like, I don't wish for any child to be silenced, or to have to shut down their feelings, their voice, their emotions, for fear of, rejection or judgment or whatnot. And so it starts with us healing that part of ourselves through our work with children. And that gives us the courage to reveal even more of ourselves. So like, I'm so grateful to all of my little students, because they let me be, who I am. And that's giving me the courage to take that out into the world, so that I'm not just touching the lives of the children, but it's like rippling out to their families, their parents, and other kids yoga teachers, other parents who may just be, really interested in learning more about, mindful parenting, or perhaps people who are interested in pursuing like their art, whether it be writing a book, or maybe their thing is art, or music, or whatever. It's amazing, because so many of us in the kids yoga world, we have our focus, and we're able to create this beautiful career from just sharing our passion.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the benefits that has come out of a worldwide pandemic is that many of us have had to step back from, the busy life that we may have been on, and kind of had to step back and go, oh, that just got interrupted. Now what? Um, and some people I know have really gone in very different directions. But when you say that people are creating these other projects, I think that this has been a really good time for us to spend some time finding our voice, and finding out what's really important, and shifting our lives, or expanding our lives, or whatever, so that we can encompass so much more of who we are individually and collectively. And I think it's a really lovely offering to the world, as more and more people express their creativity in new ways.
Yeah.
All right. So then we come to the idea of your inner critic. So there might be people out there who, are judgy, okay, whatever. And you can kind of get over that. Just like, all right, I'm just going to block them. I'm not going to offer that, not everything's for everybody, and that's okay. But then we have this lovely inner critic. And I think, at least I know in my experience, my inner critic is rather harsh. And I think that's very like something that's similar for many people. And so how do we overcome this inner critic? How do we, know that we are good enough, that what we have to offer is of value? Do we just fake it till we make it? Do we, what do you do?
Sometimes. Sometimes you do. You have to. I think, again, taking that time to connect with yourself and trust your voice, and really having those dialogues with yourself, whether it be in a journal, like writing it out. For me is always like, what are my fears? Or what is it that I'm afraid could happen, right? if I say this, or if someone were to come and say, who are you to talk about this? Or worse, on social media, there are people who just go around, just being negative and trolling and doing all that stuff. And I mean, I've never encountered it myself, luckily, but I know it happens. And I think for the most part, it's when you're out there and you're speaking your truth, it may, trigger other people. So you just have to not take it personally. And basically, I think just, try to connect with your message and your authenticity, and just continue speaking your truth and speaking. And even if, you don't really know, how it's going to turn out or whatever, you just have to continue to put yourself out there. And um and and soon you'll attract the people who are meant to hear your message or to share your message, and you'll just feel better about yourself because you're not hiding. Like, you're not hiding anymore. You're not It's worse to just hold it inside for fear of what people think, or for fear that it's not good enough, or it's not perfect, or whatever. Just, I mean, the worst that can happen, right, is um, that you fail, or whatever. And so what? Like, I mean, at least you tried. And if it doesn't work, there may just be, another lesson to learn from that. And it's going to lead you in the direction. So if you keep, putting yourself out there, speaking your truth, sharing your voice, someone's out there listening. And that, at least that's been my experience. The times that I've been really nervous about, just every time I go on a podcast, for me, it's become easier. And I try to connect with myself before I jump on like any of these podcast interviews. Like, I light my candles and I meditate, because otherwise I'm in my head, questioning, oh, what am I supposed to say? Like, what, and it's just, it's not, it just doesn't feel good to be, in your head instead of present, like having a dialogue and letting it flow. Like, that's been one of my biggest things lately, is just letting the words flow, letting the conversation flow, just letting myself flow, and seeing where that flow takes me.
I love that. And when I do the yoga teacher trainings, like I do 200 and 400 and 500-hour trainings, I just tell people, I'm like, you imitate someone and try it on and then adapt it to you. Like, it's okay. And I find myself being very much a perfectionist, but it's okay if it's not perfect, and you're going to make mistakes, and just embrace them, and enjoy the messiness of it, and laugh at yourself. If you can learn to laugh at yourself and be your best cheerleader, like, you've got this, you know what you're talking about, like, just do it. And I think that is a really important inner dialogue to silence that critic, right? We can listen to the critic, or we can say, you know what, moving along, I'm going to listen to the cheerleader because I really like her. She's telling me stuff I need to hear. And learning, as you say, yeah, so you fail, all right, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try it again. It's okay. Such important lessons, so much important lessons. All right, do you have any last advice for the people who've lasted all the way through our conversation, but for them to, as they strive to find their own voice and express their unique authenticity?
I think the biggest advice is that it's hard to do it alone. You you can go within, and and find those parts of yourself, but like, it's important to share that with others. And whether that be, your your partner, your children, like, I mean, whoever is close to you, or, putting it out in a bigger audience, finding a mentor who can get you to that place of like that next level. I mean, that's been a lot of my journey, is listening to others' voices and messages that I really connected with, and being like, oh, she's so inspiring. Like, I wish I could, you know, speak that easily and be such a truth teller. And so it's been this like journey for me where I've, just met my teachers, just like you would meet like a yoga teacher, or someone who is meant to teach you, lessons. And so there's nothing wrong with having support and allowing that. For me, my biggest lesson has also been in just receiving, right? Because I've always been like, I'll do it myself. And for the most part I did. I mean, I self-published my book, and and that's how I can mentor other authors, is because I know how hard it is to have to, and how long it took me to get all those pieces in place, even though it was a 6-year journey of, as I said, creating this idea in a class, and then, getting some editing, going to conferences and getting some critique. So there was all this process involved, trying to find an illustrator. That was like a big part of my journey. And so, but once I was ready, like, and I say this to all of the authors that I mentor, is once I was ready, it literally happened so quickly. I found my illustrator, and within 6 months or 7 months, my book was published. Like, it was printed, it was like in my hands. And so my biggest challenge, like in, in mentoring, is like, like, what's the time frame? Like, I can't promise that that's going to happen, because everything has to align. And I guess it's just a matter of trusting. And that's part of what I share with my mentees, is that I can teach you the mechanics, and everything else, like that openness, like being open to receiving and the universe aligning, and you finding your ideal illustrator, and you choosing that that date that you want your book to be birthed into the world. And then just having a little bit of just flexibility in that. So you might want it to happen in like 8 months. It might take 10, but it's definitely doable. And you just have to stay connected to your vision, right? So connected to your voice and speaking it out into the world. And that's really like one of the biggest things, is keep talking about what you're passionate about what your dreams are, about what it is that you value and want to bring to the world. And you're just kind of setting it in motion, because I really believe in the power of words, and the spoken word, like putting your words out into the world. It draws everything to you that is going to the experiences, the people that are going to assist you in fulfilling on that vision, that bigger vision, because that vision really isn't yours. Even if it's your voice, it's because you're that passionate, because you want this for other people. It's not like, oh, it's mine to keep, here's my voice. That's why, let's not keep our voice to ourselves, because it has the power to inspire so many who are either struggling with the same thing, or they just needed to hear that today. And I've gotten so many messages, like, on Instagram, like I write something that I just like on the fly, like, okay, let me post. I haven't posted in a while. And then I'll get a message, and thank you so much. I had a rough day, and this was exactly what I needed to hear. And it's like, even if you touch one person, then that, that's what's really important. It's not about like the masses. It's about like those people who really, are going to, find that, that solace and that connection in whatever you're sharing.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. It was so wonderful to see your face and to hear your voice and to have this conversation that has invited me and hopefully all of our listeners to spend a little bit more time in self-reflection and to really be true to our own voice, to share it. Shout it loud.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fantastic. So where can our listeners, our watchers, where can they find you?
Well, I am on Instagram at Be Yoga Be Love, and my website's also Be Yoga Be Love. But I do spend quite a lot of time. I'm, trying to be a little, like I said, more transparent about the rest of my life. Just the process of not only being a children's book author, but now, writing my first, grown-up book, writing my memoir. So I'm going to be sharing a lot more writing tips and, of course, mindful parenting, kids yoga. That's going to be all sprinkled in there. That's part of my passion. So right now it's just kind of like a mishmash of like everything that I'm passionate about right now. And I'm, always, you know, open to and welcome, if there's anything that are interested in finding out more about, then, just connecting with me on Instagram and sending me a private message there, or sending an email. I find that just connecting on social media sometimes is like so much more personal than like say an email, just because we get overloaded with emails. So I think that's the best way to reach me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insight. And it's a delight to have watched your journey from afar. So if you're listening, you can't see the difference in our outfits. I was commenting this before we began that you can tell that I'm up north because I have a warm fuzzy cowlick sweater on, and Betty is not up north because she has this sleeveless cute little sweater on, or shirt on, but they're both gray. So we of course phoned one another. No, we didn't. but it's been fun, and I love the fact that we can connect nearly a continent apart, and be part of the same community and share a love of so many similar things. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing. I missed when I was part of the Kids Yoga Academy, I missed connecting with you on a more regular basis, and just having that opportunity. You've always been such an inspiration to me, and just how you really help others to put themselves out there and to share their creativity. And now with this podcast, just giving everyone an opportunity to share their passions and their visions. And I really am so grateful to know you, and to be able to spend this time with you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and being part of the community here at Yoga in My School podcast. Share, like, send some love Betty's way. She's an amazing person, and we're so glad that she's part of our community. All right, until next time.